I'm doing a fully funded PhD at the second best university in the world as an immigrant child and first generation academic. In this video, I want to walk you through my academic journey and share everything I've learned along the way. The failures, the lessons learned, the small victories along the way, and the realities nobody talks about. This one's going to be a bit more personal, but still packed with lots of insight and very useful tips for your own academic journey. So grab a tea, let's get cozy and let's dive right in. Before we get started, quick introduction. If you don't know me yet, hi, I'm Aynur. I'm a third-year PhD student in chemical engineering at Imperial College London, and I made it my mission to share every secret in academia video by video through all my social media channels. Alright, my academic journey. Let's start right from the beginning. I would just want to first give you a little bit more of background so that you know where I'm coming from, what, the circumstances are, and basically all that. So, I'm from Germany, born and raised, but obviously I have an immigration background. I'm Turkish by ethnicity. My dad moved to Germany when he was 7 years old, and my mom, she was born in Germany already. But both my grandparents, all four of my grandparents are basically from the same village in Türkiye. Yeah, so basically my grandparents, they moved from Turkey to Germany as guest workers, kind of helping to rebuild Germany after the Second World War. And then after some time, my dad, as a child, just moved also to Germany together with his entire family. And then my mom, because she was one of the younger siblings, she already got born in Germany. So both my parents, they went to school until 9th and 10th grade in Germany. And then it's quite usual in Germany, if you want to do apprenticeships, then you just quit school and you do an apprenticeship. And that's how my dad became a master in metal cutting. He was a craftsman, and my mom was basically an office admin. That's what she learned in her apprenticeship. Then both got married quite young, I might say. My mom was 18 when she got married, and she was 20 when she got me, and my dad was also in his mid-20s. They both became parents very, very young, and they had this one mission to honestly prioritize education over everything else. So I was the firstborn child to them, and it was clear from the very beginning of this that they wanted me to go to university. So I think looking back at it, it's a lucky coincidence that I myself would also say that I'm very inclined towards academia, and I love academia and I love school and uni, so that was a great match. But this could have also gone wrong if I were to be more on the practical side of things and wouldn't like studying that much. Then this pressure would probably have been a lot to bear. But this way, I just got lucky. It was a great match. My parents wanted me to go to uni, and I loved school anyway, so that turned out great. Anyways, but we're back to the part where I was born. Let's move on to the school part. So when I started school at 6 years old, first grade, that was even clear. From that moment on, it was infiltrated into me that I had to go to uni. And the way Germany works is Germany has 16 states, and every state works a little different into 3 different school models. So we've got the Hauptschule, which went until 9th grade. Then we've got the Realschule, which went until 10th grade. And then you've got Gymnasium, which went until 12th grade. This changed now. It's gotten a bit different. But when I studied, that was the case. So if you wanted to go to uni, you had to go to a gymnasium. And for that, there was a grade threshold. And back then, the parents couldn't decide. So it was your grades had to match. And depending on that, you could go to the gymnasium. And if your grades weren't good enough, then you had to go to these other schools. So pressure was on. Pressure was really high. Even in primary school, I remember that grades were a big, big thing in our house. And I remember crying over actually not even bad grades, and I remember being terribly afraid also of getting home with these grades, because I know that at home I'm really gonna get a lot of pressure and they're just gonna be angry at me for having poor grades, So I feel in primary school I was kind of learning to deal with that. And also, I think the good part was that my mom, she tutored me in primary school, so I'd practice a lot with her. So that helped. And in the end, I managed to get through that threshold and go to the gymnasium. So I feel that was when my parents took a deep breath and they kind of just let me be. Because for them, that was okay, we did our job, that's it. And now you have to carry on by yourself. And I also remember my dad being not so strict on my grades anymore, because you have to think, I was a first gen academic, and I remember him telling me, he was hey, gymnasium is hard, it's one of the hardest school forms, and we don't expect you to get A grades, just pass on, just get it done, graduate at your own pace or however, it's okay. So that was a relief because primary school was very tense. And then I was allowed in 5th grade to have C's and D's and BC. I was like a BCD student in 5th grade, basically. I also didn't believe that I could be an A student, to be honest, because for me it was like this big accomplishment to make it into the school. And also the social circumstances change when you go to a gymnasium. So whereas in primary school there were lots of people from lots of different ethnic backgrounds, like our entire classroom was basically the global summit of lots of different countries. So basically every child was from somewhere else. And then gymnasium was more white. I mean, there were still immigrant children out there and there were still first-gen academics in my class as well. But you feel that it's different now. Like, you feel that these students are more from academic backgrounds, more white and more, you know, it was, as an immigrant child, you were definitely not the norm there. Back then. I think nowadays it's also a bit more different. So yeah, as I said, mediocre grades, we're glad, good. My parents were happy that I was just making the class and not having to repeat the class and that I was just doing okay as a mediocre student, I guess. So 5th grade passed, 6th grade passed, and then at some point in 7th grade, I didn't know what clicked, but I was like, hey, let me try to maybe be a B student. I'm not even talking about like first top of the class A student, but I was like, hey, let me push the grades a little bit towards the B side. And then I realized, wait a minute, I can actually do that. So there was the thing that I started to believe in myself. I was like, I can write Bs. I can do it. Like if I want to, it works. I just have a B in math. I have a B in German. I have a B in English. Like it just works. And then 7th grade passed, and in 8th grade I was like, shall I aim for my first A's? And then I gave it a go, and then I started having my first grades on like my diploma by the end of the year. And like this gymnasium that I was talking about, that goes like from 5th grade up until high school. So you don't switch schools. It's 8 years straight, 5th class to 12th. When you graduate with your high school diploma, that's all the same school, right? So in 8th grade, I had my first A's, and then I was like, I got this self-esteem and this, I started to believe in myself. I was like, hey, I can do this. And then I got obsessed. That's where my grade obsession started. And then I was like, okay, next year I'm gonna have more A's. And then the year after I'm gonna have more A's. And then I'm gonna have all A's. And basically, a wonderful thing happened here, you know, because two things. First of all, I had to work myself towards that self-esteem. It was a coincidence because you know how you like try to motivate others and be like, hey, you can do this, you can do anything you set your mind to, and all that motivational coaching and all these speakers. Like, I obviously hadn't had that. And my parents were happy with me just getting along at the gymnasium. Nobody had these crazy expectations, and also nobody believed that I could do that, you know? Even like for my parents, it was like, hey, you're an immigrant child, you're a first-gen academic, okay? Like, we don't expect you to be an A student. It's good enough that you can already graduate from that school and go to uni. So me discovering that part of myself, that I can actually do whatever I set my mind to, that was such a big learning in that very valuable time of my life, because that was like during puberty, right? So I'm becoming that woman, I'm becoming a young adult, and I learned, okay, I just have to set my mind to it and I can accomplish anything that I set my mind to. And I proved that to myself year over year, and with that, like my character also developed a lot. Like I remember being like very shy in 6th grade, and also like I didn't feel so comfortable in my skin, and I was like very aware of the environment and that I don't really fit into that. Whereas when you look at me like towards 10th grade, 11th grade, there is a huge shift in that mindset. So all of a sudden I was very extrovert, very active. I was in so many student societies doing all kinds of different volunteering things, and there was nothing I didn't do. I was here and there and having great grades, and every year my A count increased and I had more A's than the year before. Fast forward to graduation, which was, I remember this day, it was such a nice day, like the day we got our high school diploma, because it felt like all the hard work kind of paid off. I remember getting lots of prizes. I remember having a great grades overall. I felt so proud of myself, and I also had the honor of giving like the high school speech that you do at the graduation, which also received lots of beautiful feedback.
Und natürlich den intelligentesten, einzigartigsten und besten Abiturjahrgang 2016. Ganz herzlich zu unserer Verabschiedung.
I was like kind of like in a high for the next couple of days, thinking back of the day, and I was just so happy. And with that self-esteem, again, proactively, me by myself decided to apply to a scholarship for my university degree. Now you have to think of this like this. There are 13 governmental scholarships in Germany that you can apply to for like German students. This is not for international students. And it's basically all the same. Like it all comes from the taxes basically. The amount of scholarship that you get is the same. The only thing that differs is the idealistic program. So you have the money that you get, which is all the same for all these 13 scholarship programs, but the program that you have alongside, like the academic, the seminars, the workshop, these kind of things vary from scholarship to scholarship. And usually these scholarships, you have like party-owned scholarships, so from all the big major parties in Germany, but you also have like religious scholarships, like the Catholic one, the Protestant one, the Jewish one, and also the Muslim one. So I applied for the Muslim one, right? And it's funny because I remember I did it all by myself. The entire application I did by myself. I had no one to proofread my application. Like literally, I wrote it, I submitted it, nobody proofread it or gave me feedback on it. Nothing. Like no feedback on my CV, no feedback on my letter of motivation, nothing. Even for the references, so I had to submit a couple of references for my teachers. I had to like sketch it out for them and like fill in a couple of keywords for them. And it was wild. That this application was successful was wild. I'm thinking, I really hope that, like looking back at it, and I also reread my application, the way it's written was really bad, but I feel like the content was good. You know, I listed all the volunteering stuff, my grades were important. I feel like the admin stuff, I think they just knew that I'm first gen and that I have no one to proofread my application, and then they kind of invited me for their interview. And guys, this interview, it was, first of all, it was like a 6-hour car ride from where I live. So I went there with my dad and we drove there 6 hours to Osnabrück, and I'm like from Heilbronn, so it's literally on the other side of Germany. And then I was so nervous. Oh my god, that was probably the interview I was most nervous about in my entire life. I don't remember how it passed. I just remember talking and just like answering questions and all that. And you know, and then I got it. I got this scholarship, and this scholarship, guys, it's a huge one because it paid for my bachelor's, master's, semesters abroad that I did during my master's. And the biggest part of it is that through that scholarship, I got access to a community which is beyond any value. That community was so valuable and it shaped literally the future of my academic career, okay? But before we get too much into the scholarship, I just want to walk you through the transition period of high school to university. So I was again in a very insecure spot in my life because as a first-gen academic, you don't really have like anyone you can consult much about. I mean, I had some family that did do university. I had a cousin and an uncle, and these two were the only ones by that time who have been to university in my entire extended family, okay? Like, I'm not even talking about near family. But yeah, that wasn't even nearly enough. And I then just read through brochures and tried to find like something to study, and I decided to go for bioengineering. That's my bachelor degree. And I remember starting this at a technical university. I studied at Karlsruhe Institute for Technology, which is a very hard unit to study in Germany. So the exams are super hard, the classes are super hard. Obviously education is great, I guess, the stuff that we learned, but it's not easy to get a degree there. And then I remember just feeling so lost in this academic world. It took me a couple years to get used to how to study for an exam and how to do all these things. And I remember having so many self-doubts about myself. My grades dropped immensely. Like from that A student, I just was barely passing the exams, and I just felt terrible. Like my self-esteem again took a very, very huge dip. And that's where the scholarship came in, you know, the one, it's called Avicenna, by the way. In Avicenna, because it was like this Muslim scholarship in Germany, I met Muslim students from all over Germany, selected by this scholarship. So basically the best Muslim students in Germany all together like in one scholarship. And before that, I really struggled to have peers, okay? Because like when I was looking at my high school time, but also at uni, a lot of immigrant children were just going by. They were just mediocre students, barely passing their exams, getting their diploma. Like maybe the best one would be like a BC student, but I never saw like an A student, at least not in my peer group. And then when I started uni, the same. A lot of immigrant students, they just dropped out. They didn't even get a degree. And the ones they did, they just took so long. And it was really like I hadn't had like these peers whom I could relate to, you know, because that's the thing. Like when I see all these white people, then I have the problem that I don't relate to them. I'm like, yeah, okay, but you have like you have an academic background, you have all these things. Like it's really hard to relate, okay. But then in this community, in Avicenna, like being with other scholarship owners, I saw myself in them, and I was like, what? Like you're doing this and that, and these are your goals? That's crazy. And they basically taught me to dream big. And I remember this one moment crystal clear that really like changed my life. It was when a girl named Zeynep, who literally also had parents from Turkey, born in Germany, and she did a visiting research placement at MIT in Boston at that time. And like she's wearing the hijab, her parents are, it's literally the same. Like I could see myself so much in her, and I was like, you're going to MIT? To MIT in Boston, like the #1 university in the world. You're gonna go there by yourself. And then I realized like, wow, because before that, I never even allowed myself to dream so big. You know, my dreams were always like, okay, let's just get by through uni. Let's just get by through high school. Let's just pass. Let's just get the degree. But it was never like, let's dream as big as possible. Let's go to MIT. No, it was never that kind of dreaming. It was always, okay, let's just pass these exams. Let's just get this, let's just get a normal job afterwards. So yeah, being surrounded with these people really changed the way I viewed my goals, and I recalibrated them, and I was like, hell yeah, now I'm gonna dream big. And during that time, I also met Fatih, my husband. So I met him like at the end of my bachelor's, at the beginning of my master's, during that transition area. And then, you know, I talked with him, and he's like an enthusiast in living abroad. And he was like, hey, you know, I'd love to live abroad at some part of my life. And I'm an academic enthusiast. I was like, hey, like I want to study at the best unis in the world. Like, you know, I pick the uni and then we go abroad. So that was kind of our deal. And then we got married, and I got a position as a visiting researcher at Harvard back then. That was in my master's, to write my master thesis. So I was very excited. I was like, oh my God, Howard, that's a dream come true. That's wild. I'm going to go to Boston. Things changed a little bit. First of all, COVID hit. Then the professor that I wanted to work with got a professorship at Johns Hopkins University. And then he was like, hey, like I'm going to be at Johns Hopkins University now. Do you still want to work with me? So yeah, I decided to go for it. I said yes. So instead of Harvard, it turned out to be Johns Hopkins. So that was my very first study abroad experience. Fatih and I were married for 2 months only when we moved to the US for 6 months to Baltimore. It was crazy thinking back that we did that, and it was so nice. It's definitely one of the coolest memories I have. And again, Avicenna paid for it. Like this scholarship, financially, mentally, the connections, everything, it was just a dream scholarship, honestly. So yeah, we went there. This really like built my self-esteem even more, like my academic self-esteem. I was like, hey, like, first of all, I got an offer at Harvard. So if the professor wouldn't have switched, I would have literally been there. And I was like, that's wild. So again, there was like this moment of I set myself a goal and I just achieved it. Set goal, achieve goal, done. And knowing that this is possible in life, that you can literally just set a goal and then reach that goal. I know it sounds like so simple, but Harvard is big. It's a big goal. And yeah, that was crazy. And then this really pushed me further into being like, hey, like I want to do my PhD at a great uni. And I didn't want to do it in the US because of the PhD system there. I wanted to stay in Europe. And so naturally, if you look at European great universities, Imperial College, one of them, right? So now it's like taking that self-esteem from there. Plus already having a scholarship, I applied to another scholarship. This scholarship was a mentoring scholarship because I realized, okay, I need a mentor in my life because I have no high achievers in my family, no high achievers in my immediate surrounding. I have peers, and they motivate me to do all these crazy things, but I don't have like a high achiever that's like 20, 30 years above me and has all that experience. None of these people exist in my circle, okay? So I was like, I need a mentor. I need someone who's done all that stuff, who did the gritty grinding things, and just, you know, what is it like to be a high achiever in your 50s, for example, right? So there's this scholarship that I applied to, again for immigrant students in Germany, immigrant child students in Germany. 100 people were selected only per year, I think. And yeah, I got one of them. I received that scholarship. And the crazy part is that the Chancellor of Germany is the patron of this foundation. So they really have like a strong background. And the way it works is that you select a person and they, for you, write to that person and say, hey, we're from this and this institution. We're looking for a mentor. This is like our scholarship holder. Would you be willing to mentor her? And yeah, I just picked a mentor by chance. And this person, he agreed. And that was also a very life-changing moment for me because I got an awesome mentor. He is a very high executive at a global company, and for the first time I was able to get a sneak peek into what it's like to manage thousands of people in such a global organization, to have so much responsibility and to do all this crazy work, and just being able, like, because I was also able to attend some meetings that he went to, look into his calendar schedule. We had like regular meetings where I could ask all my questions, and this was wild because, again, on a higher scale of level, this mentorship again taught me anything is possible in life. And this is also just a human who worked hard, did a great job, and also was lucky probably that the position got opened up, but ended up here, you know? So when you look at it, a lot of things happened like a chain reaction, right? So there was this 7th grade Ainur that suddenly realized that if she wants to have good grades, she can get good grades. Then there is this 12th year Ainur who realized, okay, she's an A student now and she can just apply for a scholarship. Then there is this bachelor student Ainur who's met awesome peers, super high achieving people with the same background as her, and she's like, oh wow, if they can do it, I can do it. And it all comes down to, when I look back at it, at having that self-confidence of being able to set a goal and achieve that goal, no matter what that goal is. Right? So that was like the key insight of all of these things. That plus grittiness, hard work, guys. Lots of hours spent studying, applying, all these things. And yeah, this eventually, like with the funding being cleared for my PhD, ended up me having like a PhD position at Imperial College London, which is where I am right now. I'm in my 3rd year. Hopefully gonna graduate by the end of next year. Hopefully. So yeah, this kind of sums up my academic journey. So if I were to sum it up and give you like tips, I guess, it would be to really work on believing in yourself. Look, I know that wherever you are in the world, you're gonna have limitations that are out of your control, okay? I also had like cultural limitations, like studying abroad, for example, was not in the cards for me as a woman. I wouldn't be allowed to do that. So I could do this just after getting married with Fatih, basically, which is a reality. But like within the things that you can do, within the boundaries that you have, dream as big and bold as you can and go for that goal. And also, don't just go the main road. Don't just go the road that everyone tries. Like, you know, it's not the one that everyone goes, and that's kind of like how it worked out for me. And so dream big, believe in yourself, do things that will grow your self-esteem. One thing. The other thing is surround yourself with peers that have similar or higher goals than you. This is so important. You have to find your circle of high achievers if you want to be a high achiever. Like these people, like at the scholarship, they really gave me so much self-confidence, and also they really pushed me, you know. It was like every time we met and we'd have these monthly meetings, I was like, wow, these people do so many crazy things. I have to do so much more in my life. I have to do this, I have to do that. And looking back at my bachelor's, I feel like I was on some kind of drugs. The stuff that I did, the stuff that I could squeeze into my time as a student, wild. And these people are the reason, one of the reasons why I did that, because they were doing wild stuff, and then I was like, oh wow, like I should do this, I should do that. And the third thing is find yourself a mentor who has achieved the goals that you want to achieve in the future, 20, 30 years above of you, ahead in life, that can give you valuable expertise, insights into life of your future, right? So that being said, this is basically the end of my video. This is my academic journey, how I came from A to B where I am right now. I'm excited for the future future ahead. Please comment what part of your academic journey you're in right now. I'd be super interested to read about your academic journey. And yeah, I hope you could get some valuable insights from this video, but also get to know me a little bit better. And with that being said, I hope I can see you in the next video. Take care wherever you are. Bye bye.